So yesterday we reviewed simplifying square roots. Today we are going to review the Pythagorean Theorem. At some point in your mathematical career, you were taught the Pythagorean Theorem. I do not expect you to run out and do it the way the chapter does, so that's why I added this section in. Okay? So the Pythagorean Theorem deals with the relationship between the side lengths of a right triangle. Side A and B are both called legs. So this is a leg, and this is a leg. Side C is called the hypotenuse. You will usually see me just write HYP. Okay. The hypotenuse is always the longest side and it is opposite from the right angle. So here's the right angle. So opposite is the longest side and the hypotenuse. It does not matter which leg is a leg. Doesn't matter. I don't care. It matters the hypotenuse. There is only one. It matters what it is. The relationship that is true for every right triangle, only a right triangle, is the Pythagorean Theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Or you can think of it as leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Because the leg A and B does not matter. You get what I'm trying to say, that A and B does not matter? Some things you need to make sure you know: that side A is opposite angle A. Side B is opposite angle B. Side C is opposite angle C. The side is always opposite the letter, the same angle letter. Once I move this, I won't see it anymore, so I want to make sure everything is okay. Everyone got it?
Yep.
Okay, so we are going to be calculating missing sides of right triangles. I'll move it up just a little so I don't have to move it again. So what we need to make sure is identify the hypotenuse. We always need to identify the hypotenuse, because if we know the hypotenuse, the other two are just legs. Correct? So how did we know where the hypotenuse was?
It is opposite from the right angle.
Is opposite from the right angle. So in the first example, x is the hypotenuse, isn't it?
Yes.
So state it. Okay? In the second example, which is the hypotenuse? 12. In the third example, which is the hypotenuse?
7.2.
Okay? So it's important to establish what's the hypotenuse, because, again, the legs don't matter. So we have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And I want c, which is the hypotenuse, correct? But I just want c. And I have my equation says c what? Squared? Yeah. What is the inverse of squaring something? What's the opposite of square rooting something? That's what inverse means. What operation? What's the inverse operation of addition? Subtraction. What about multiplication?
Division.
So squaring is square roots. The inverse operation of squaring something is the square root. the inverse operation of cubing something is the cube root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides. So this is going to tell me the hypotenuse is equal to the square root of the legs squared plus the legs squared. That's what we're going to do. That's the math. See how I moved around that equation? Okay, so my hypotenuse is x equals the square root. And technically when we take the square root, it's plus and minus, yes?
Yeah.
But can lengths be negative?
No.
No. So we don't do the negative. Okay, so my two legs are 18 and 15. So 18 squared plus 15 squared. So this is where knowing your squares and cubes will really, really help you save a lot of time, yes? Okay, don't get it out. Okay, what is 18 squared?
324.
No, it's 324.
Yeah, it's 324.
So the square root of 324 plus 225. So I think that's 549. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so 549. So when I add that up, I get 5 plus 4 is 9, plus 9 is 18. So 9 goes into 18, correct? So 9 goes into the whole thing, which is good to know because 9 is a perfect square, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 9 times, well, 9 goes into 54. How many times? 6. And it goes into 9 once. I'm pretty sure 61's prime. How about you? So what's the square root of 9? 3. So it's 3 square root of 61. And what do we need to put out the end? How about feet? Do we need to keep our units?
No, that's an answer.
Uh-huh. That's the answer.
Oh, that's not one.
Nope. Okay, so now we're not looking for a hypotenuse, we're looking for a what? Leg. So if I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared, I'm going to have to subtract one of my legs over, aren't I? So it's going to be my leg equals the square root of the hypotenuse squared minus the leg squared. Now, the hypotenuse has to come first because the hypotenuse is the biggest, yes? And you can't subtract lengths, like your hypotenuse has to come first. So, x, which is my leg I'm looking for, yes, is the square root. What's the hypotenuse? 12 squared plus,
Subtract
oh,
Minus.
thank you, minus
8 squared.
8 squared. So 144 minus 64.
So 80.
Yeah.
80, yep. Okay, so what do you know goes into 80?
10 and 8.
How about a perfect square? Hope you know 4 goes into it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah? Okay, so 4 and 20, but 20 is 4 and 5. So I can take out a what? 4. So 4 square root of 5 centimeters. Not overly difficult, but do you now know why we did what we did yesterday? Okay, so we're looking for a leg again, yes? Okay, so x is going to equal the square root. So when we do a leg, we're hypotenuse minus a leg, right? Because we just moved around our a squared plus b squared equals c squared. If you forget, can you do that on your own? Yep. Okay, so 0.72 squared minus 5.3 squared. So I'll let you guys square 53, and I'll square 72. Square 53, and I'll square 72. Okay, what'd you guys get?
28.09.
You guys agree with her?
Yeah.
Okay. So minus 28.09. So now I gotta subtract them, right? So 14 would be 5, right? No. 14 minus 9 would be... I can't think. 5, yeah, that's right. And then 7.
23.75.
And then... Yep. You guys were good with 23.75?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we know 25 goes into that, yes? How do I know 25 goes into that?
75.
Because it's the 75, right? So 23.75 divided by 25 is, being nice, 0.95. So I have the square root of 25 is what? 5? The square root of 0.95. Now, should we really leave the square root of 0.95 there? No. So we should multiply 5 square root of 0.95. So your answer is approximately 4.87 and no units. Now, on your test, you're not going to have a calculator. So if there's decimals, you'll have to deal with them. But I would assume you would leave your answer like this, because you can divide this by 25 without a calculator, correct? Okay. Now,
So wait, I have a question.
mhm.
Do you always take the number outside, like if it's a decimal like that, the 0.95, you always take that 5 and divide it by the 0.95?
Well, we said it was 25
Yes.
and something. So we took 23.75 divided by 25,
Yeah, I know that.
and that's how we got our 0.95.
Yes, but then after that, when you divide,
Oh, when I do that, I take 5 times, this is multiplication between those two things. 5 times the square root of 0.95.
okay.
Like, we would not be doing this without a calculator.
Okay.
You would leave your answer like this. Questions, guys? Okay, so next page. Okay, Pythagorean triple. Well, what a Pythagorean triple is, I don't know. Evidently I wanted you to write it again on your own, because it's such a wonderful word to say and write. Well, how many things are in a Pythagorean triple? How many things are in a triple?
3.
3. Okay, consists of 3 positive integers a, b, c, such that a squared plus b squared equals what?
C squared.
C squared. So if I tell you, here's a triangle, is it a right triangle? Well, if it is, a squared plus b squared will equal what? C squared. Now, they're not going to tell you the hypotenuse because they ask you if it's the right triangle, right? But what do we know about the hypotenuse?
It is opposite of the right.
Right, but we don't know if it's a right triangle.
Oh.
What else do we know about it? What is its relationship to the other two sides?
It equals them.
It says it on there. It's
The longest
opposite.
side?
It's the longest side. So should we always be able to figure out which one is the hypotenuse if it is?
The longest side.
Okay. So we
What
need
if
to
they're all the same?
determine, huh?
What they're all the same.
Well, then it can't be. Well, no, it can't be. It can't be an equilateral right triangle. Cannot.
Okay.
Okay. So it says determine whether the triangle with the given side lengths is a right triangle. Well, if it's a right triangle, then what? A squared plus B squared is going to equal what?
C squared.
C squared. So which one of these is C? 7, 24, 25?
25.
25. So 25 squared equals 7 squared plus 24 squared. Would this change if I gave you a picture? No.
No.
Okay, so 25 squared is
500.
isn't it 625? Okay, what's 7 squared?
49.
49. What's 24 squared? See why you need to know these?
Yes.
576. Okay, so 576. So I get 5, carry a 1, be 12, which would be 6. So 625 equal to 625?
Nope.
Dakota, what are you doing? Go pick it up. Phoenix, you're so lucky you didn't respond to him. Okay, so we're going to say it's a right, because this is a right angle. Yes? Triangle. Look at that. It's our hieroglyphics.
Yes. Stop.
Dakota and Phoenix, are you writing your notes?
Yeah.
You realize she's recording that?
Okay, so is it a right triangle? Yes, because why? A squared plus B squared equaled C squared. Okay, so now we got to think about this. I got 6, 7, and the square root of 85. Well, what's the perfect square closest to 85?
84. 81.
81, and that's what?
9.
9. So is 85 bigger than 7?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so the square root of 85 is my hypotenuse, right? Or possibly. So square root of 85 squared equals 6 squared plus 7 squared. So since square rooting and square rooting and squaring are inverse operations, when I square root, I just get what's inside. That's it. They undo each other. So when you square a square root or you square root a square,
Can you stop saying those words, please? It's square root of square and root square, whatever you just said.
Yes.
Square root too much.
okay, so what is 6 squared?
36.
36. What is 7
49.
squared? 49. What do they add together to be?
85.
So is it a right triangle?
Yes.
So you do the next one on your own.
I miss algebra.
This is algebra.
No, it's not.
What do you mean? You don't have to square that. 144. That's the easiest one.
So is it a right triangle?
No.
Nope. So my equal sign, I cross it out and I write not a right triangle.
I like those. Those are kind of easy.
Okay, questions on those before I move on to 2 application problems?
DK said he had a question.
Yes, sir?
I have a question.
Maybe I can get both on the same screen so I don't have to do it again.
DK, I swear he had a question.
I don't think so. There we go.
There. Okay, so the reason why these are here is I want you to know that right triangle geometry is actually one of the most common used. One of the most common used because it's practical. So the next one says a 24-foot wire that attaches to an electrical pole. If I look out the window, would you see a wire attached to the electrical pole that touches the ground?
No.
I bet you there's,
Yeah.
it's called a guy wire.
No.
Yes. Okay, so the pole, what direction do poles stand?
Straight up.
Straight up. So draw yourself a pole. And how tall is the pole?
20 feet.
20 feet. And I would assume the wire goes from the top of the pole to the bottom, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that is how many feet?
24.
24 feet. Well, here's the ground, yeah?
Yeah.
With some grass and a flower. Okay, what kind of an angle is this?
Right.
A right angle. Can I use the Pythagorean theorem to find out how far the wire is anchored from the pole?
Yes.
Yes.
Because
Is that a hypotenuse or a leg we're looking for?
a leg.
A leg. So that would be x equals the square root of the hypotenuse squared minus the leg squared. So even story problems with this can't be that hard, can they? There's only 3 parts. So 24 squared is?
No clue.
We just had it earlier. 576. Minus 20 squared?
400.
400. So I'm assuming you're all going to say 176.
Yeah, probably. How did you?
So can I reduce that?
I don't know.
I think 4 goes into it, don't you?
Maybe.
Well, 4 goes into 7. Yeah.
44.
So 4 and 44. Well, that'd be 4 times 11. So I can bring out a 4 square root of 11 feet. So that guy water doesn't actually go because the way I drew my picture, doesn't it look like the ground space is longer than the pole? Yeah. So this is one of your lessons. Don't ever trust a picture. Trust your numbers.
No, you can always trust the picture.
No. Okay. I want you to try the next one on your own. Oh, wait. You can maybe not. Okay. Says if the right triangle shown is an isosceles triangle with a hypotenuse measure of 18 centimeters, what is the length of each side? So where does 18 go?
Opposite of the right angle.
Opposite of the right angle.
So long side.
Okay. What does it mean for a triangle to be an isosceles triangle?
A weird triangle.
I don't know my triangles.
There's triangle, there's right triangles, there's equilateral triangles, right? There's scalene triangles,
It's a Galen triangle.
scalene triangle, and there's isosceles. So, equilateral, all the sides are the same. Yes?
Absolutely.
And one of them is 2 sides are the same, and one of them is no side is the same. So which one is 2 and which one is no? Isosceles or scalene?
Scalene.
Okay, no side's the same as a scalene. 2 sides the same are as isosceles. And we'll talk about them more. That's kind of a review. But this is how you remember. If I write an isosceles triangle, it starts with an I. If I draw a scalene, it starts with an S. So if 2 sides are the same of a triangle, wouldn't it be symmetric? Like I could cut it?
Yes.
Okay, which one of these letters is symmetric? I. So I is isosceles, which the 2 sides are the same. That's a good way to remember it. Okay, so now can we solve this? Yes? Okay, so we're going to just start with the normal Pythagorean theorem. It says leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Yes? So what's one leg?
Why?
What is it?
What?
What's one leg?
X.
X. So x squared plus x squared equals 18 squared. So how many x's do I have? X squareds do I have? 2. So I have 2x squared equals
would be, what's 18
We've-
times 18?
We've done that already today.
Would you square 18?
Yes.
543.
Look at your paper.
547. You
No.
told me not to look at my paper. Yeah.
No, your notes. Your notes. It's in your notes. 324. We've already done it. That's why I said look. I meant look at your notes, not your paper, because we've already done it. Okay. Now what? This is your algebra, Addie. Divide by 2.
Oh,
So x squared equals 2 goes into 3 how many times?
1.
1 time, carry a 1. 2 goes into 12.
4 times. No, 6
Six.
times. I was looking at the before.
And then 2 goes into 4.
2 times.
2 times. So I've got x squared equals 162.
Your answer?
Nope, because I need x.
Already said.
What do I have to do? Take
What's
the
Square root.
square root. Okay, well, 2 goes into it. 4 doesn't, but 2 does. Oh, but 1 plus 6 plus 2 is 9, isn't it?
Yep.
Yes, so does 9 go into it? 9 goes into 16 how many times?
2.
1. With 7 left over? 9 goes into 72? 8. But there's another what in there? Isn't there another 9 and 18? So I get 9 times 2. So I can bring out a 9 square root of 2. And do we have any units? Yes. Centimeters? Okay. So today it is all about the Pythagorean theorem. And can you tell me it?
A squared.
A squared plus.
Plus B squared equals C squared.
What are A and B?
The leg.
Legs.
The legs. What is C?
The height. Whatever. it's
How do you know what the hypotenuse is?
It's longer.
Longer and
Opposite of the right
Hypotenuse.
opposite the right angle. So let me